Why do African parents do not discuss sex? I would say it from the point of view of they're scared most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The knowledge they have is what they've brought into
it's what they learned.
What they learned. And thirdly, the most important thing again is they don't know any better.
Right. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Anya Fombad, and I spark the hard conversations that challenge questionable cultural and societal norms that threaten the well-being of the African community. And I also share stories about growing up as Africans in Africa and in the diaspora. I strongly believe that normalizing open discussions and sharing experiences, whether good or bad, will not only make you find your voice, but will broaden your sense of purpose and empower others to do the same. So if you have ever tried challenging certain African cultural and societal doctrines, or if you have ever felt like it is about time that we confronted these issues in our African community and do better as a people, or even if you have always been interested in learning about the experiences of other Africans growing up in Africa and the diaspora, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Living African. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Living African. Today we will be talking about sex, or rather sex education. Sex education has been known to be a forbidden topic in our African community due to the stigma and myths surrounding it. Also, most of our parents never had sex education and didn't quite know how to talk about sex. It just wasn't and isn't instilled in our African culture. Sadly, a lot of us did not get proper sex education in our younger years, and I'm very sure that we must have had at least one experience that will probably have been different if we knew better. Whether it is in experiencing sex for the first time, which is super nerve-wracking, by the way, or understanding our sexuality, we have all experienced moments where we were clueless and did not know what to expect. The truth is that sex is a natural part of human biology, and not acknowledging it creates so many long-standing issues. Pretending that sex does not even exist among teenagers as well, or ignoring the fact that children battle with their sexuality is a recipe for disaster and may end up in unwanted pregnancies, STDs, which are sexually transmitted diseases, confusion in their sexuality, just to name a few. According to a study, 34% of young people around the world cannot demonstrate accurate knowledge of HIV prevention and transmission. And 2/3 of girls in some countries have no idea of what is happening to them when they begin menstruation. We have had previous episodes on this podcast where girls were continuously being raped for years but did not even know that they were raped or that it was actually bad because they did not know about sex. Creating a safe space for children to have sex education has been a challenging task so far, both at home and in schools in our African community. And with the level of exposure through the funny websites, social media, and even peers, this has led to so many young people seeking confusing and conflicting information about relationships and sex as they transition from childhood to adulthood. It is therefore our duty to fulfill this increasing demand from young people for reliable information, which prepares them for a safe, productive, and fulfilling life. Well, if you ask me, I would rather my child learn about sex from me than from his or her friend or social media. So today we are here to normalize sex education and demystify it at the same time. We will also examine why this natural part of human biology, which is sex, is perceived in a shameful way, and why people assume that once sex education is mentioned, the conversation will become inappropriate. So I have with me here today Lola Bade-Aluko, who is also known as Lawler, and she is a proud Nigerian clinical psychologist and sexologist currently based in South Africa. Lawler is a wearer of many hats and has taken on a number of great opportunities in her lifetime. She's a talk practitioner, a host at various radio talk programs in Nigeria, England, and Swaziland. And she also runs a psychological unit called Shoulders and a reach out unit called Real Issues with Lawler, where she volunteers, hosts talks, and does counseling. She does all this also while working as an executive director of a technology firm. On a more personal level, Lawler is a proud mom to 2 young adults and a wifey. Lawler is very passionate about mindset transformation and believes in the use of media as well as various other forms of outreach techniques in behavioral modification. So welcome to the show, Lola. I am super, super glad to have you. I look forward to this conversation based on our previous conversations, and I hope that the listeners will learn a lot from you, and I hope to learn a lot from you as well, right? So what exactly is sex education?
Well, it depends on where you're looking at it from. What I always say to people is, like I'll always rightly say to people, this is me in my comfort zone. This is me talking something I love to impact into other people, because like you rightly said, I use the word, let's demystify sex.
Right.
When you just blow things out of proportion and everybody just puts a lot of different meanings to it.
Yeah.
So, back to your question, what is sex education? I think basically it's just you impacting knowledge about sex, the understanding of your sexuality, of what sex is all about.
Right.
Includes, sexual health, you going through these different stages that people go through. But it's actually just like you're saying, it's education. You're teaching people about, okay, this is what it is. So right now, what do you do in sex education? You take the reality and run with it.
Right.
And take it away from what we think is right, or what we've come to assume is right because of we not being able to explain things in a better way.
Right.
So, we just come up with this little theory.
Exactly.
So that you don't ask more questions. You understand?
Yes. Just shutting people down, basically.
That's what it's all about. It's just you impacting the knowledge of sexual health to people. And I always remember sex education comes in stages. I mean, what you're teaching a 3-year-old is going to be different from what you're teaching a 5-year-old.
A 5-year-old, exactly.
What you're teaching a 13-year-old, it's in stages. And you need to always remember that just like you're growing up.
Yeah.
You need to do things in stages. You cannot be teaching, and that is where everybody goes wrong. You can't be teaching a 10-year-old the sexual education for a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's true. So do you mind sharing with us like a little bit of like some historical or scientific aspects of sex education, or even just sex, basically?
Okay, let me take it from the point of view that, okay, when you go back into history, and I like to use this analogy a lot, even in Africa, okay? When we look at the, I saw your write-up and you said maybe most people, especially Africans, were not taught about sexuality. I think we were actually really taught about sexuality. If you go to, in Nigeria, for example, you go to the Calabar region, okay, where you have something called the fattening room. Basically, what it used to do to young ladies then, was apart from even preparing them for marriage, you understand, it was a way to teach them about sex. It was more of a sexual education thing.
Right.
But they called it a different name because what they basically taught these ladies was, how to pleasure your husband.
Yeah.
How to take care of your home. And why did they inscribe you pleasuring your husband in the fattening room? Because they realized that sex was one of the key things to hold you down to marriage.
Right.
Now, let's go back to prehistory time. I bet you must have read about Cleopatra.
Yeah.
That everybody thought she was a sex goddess because she learned the act of sex.
Yeah.
She learned that, this is the way you touch. These are the words you say. This is the way you act. And I feel that when people sit back and realize that, you know what, before time immemorial, before even right now, there's always been sex. Even if you look at the Bible, it says, and he went in and he laid with her.
Yeah.
It was just pure sex. It's either you call it sex or you call it love making. But whatever it was, it did exist.
Yeah.
Always been there.
Right. Yeah, it has always been there, but not as prominent as in our African community as, we would love ideally for it to be, because like you mentioned, most of those women who were taught about sex, right? They were taught about sex at the time of marriage. Well, now, back then people got married really young, so you may not know what age, they were getting married. But for the most part in our African communities, a lot of parents don't really find it necessary to teach, children about their sexuality or sex due to a lot of social and cultural ideologies that they have against just that topic as a whole. Now, in terms of like, when is the earliest time to teach a child about sex? A lot of parents freak out a little bit because they're like, oh, I don't want to put things into their head, right? Things that they're not supposed to know at this age, and then of course about sexuality, it also has to do with the freedom of exploring your sexuality. But coming from our African background, where things like, being gay or lesbian, it's like, whoa, it's not even supposed to be talked about or even accepted, regardless of the age, so all of those things, I believe, kind of limit the topics or even limit the whole idea or initiative about bringing forth these sexual discussions with children. And I'm very sure you can add more to it eventually. But now this brings me to my next question. What is actually the perfect age, to talk about sex?
Okay, I think your question is a lot embedded in one, okay? And I'm going to take it initially from, let's go back to our parents' days, okay? And what I always say is this. My key word in anything I do as a psychologist is you cannot give what you don't have.
Yeah.
Okay, you can only work with what you know most of the time.
Right.
Will I really blame our parents, our African parents? Not really, because you see, in an indirect way, they did teach about sex education. If you look back, they did teach about sex education, especially with the girl child.
Right.
They taught most of the girl child. I mean, I don't know in your culture, but in Nigerian culture, there's this waist bead.
The waist beads as an aphrodisiac
to make their body more attractive. That was part of sexuality, because why would you want to put that on the child to like shape the body? You understand? So the child can look attractive and then they teach girls I think as long as you started your periods. Now, that was where it went wrong a little bit. They were a little bit, I always use myself as an example.
Right.
When I said, I think they didn't even know the ways to go about it,
Right.
I think they tried to kill the ant with the hammer.
Yeah.
And what they were trying to do was, okay, you know what? Because I don't want to be explicit about things I'm going to tell you about sex, I would rather just tell you it's like one story fits all.
Yeah.
Basically, if you when you start your periods, if you look at a man, you're gonna get pregnant. But because we're young, you can't even fathom that it doesn't work that way. And again, we realize that you can't even tell those stories to the kids of nowadays.
Yeah, there's a lot more knowledge out there.
So the difference basically, I would say, is things are changing.
Yeah.
We all know what the internet is doing to everybody. You can
right.
Google everything and then they can give you answers. But I remember in our own days growing up, apart from the fact that there were books about sex, I remember reading a book called Every Woman. Mm-hmm. It was like every young girl's Bible then. That is where you go to for information.
Right.
But like you rightly said, it wasn't a good information because sometimes you can read and assimilate the wrong things.
Right.
That was why it was very necessary for parents to teach. And why did our African parents not teach? I think it was I would call it culture. You understand? Always remember that we're Africans, and
Right.
there's something called cultural psychology.
Yeah.
I did that as a course in school, okay? And what it basically says is that, you see, you are formed by the culture around you. So you not conforming to that culture, you become a non-conformist.
Right.
So basically like an outcast.
Right.
So it's not like you saying, even though you know it's not right.
Right. Right.
Everybody's going left.
Yeah.
It's not like you just follow the bandwagon and you go left.
Right.
And why do African parents do not discuss sex? I would say it from the point of view of they're scared most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The knowledge they have is what they've brought into
it's what they learned. Yeah.
What they learned. And thirdly, the most important thing again is they don't know any better.
Right.
And that's just the truth about it.
Right.
They don't really know any better. They don't know if, okay, this is the appropriate age, They don't know, okay, maybe this. And most of them always leave it to chance. They tell you things like, oh, don't worry. It's like a normal phenomenon. When the child gets older, they get to learn. But
they get to learn.
It can swing either way.
Right.
It can swing either way, you understand? And children, for their nature, they're very curious.
Yes.
So when you don't teach them,
they go elsewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very curious.
Yeah. I mean, I was a very curious child. Oh my goodness. I asked the darnest questions. I did, like, I feel like I grew way faster than my age, and my mom can definitely say that. But thankfully, my mom always made sure to teach us certain things, even at a very young age. I grew up seeing my mom carrying out workshops on HIV and AIDS and educating youths on their sex, sexuality, and abstinence and all those kind of things, to prevent HIV and AIDS back in the 90s. So it's definitely something that I learned from because I was always there with her. I really wanted to know all of these things, So I personally have grown to really appreciate, growing up, I really came to appreciate knowing my body. I remember when I started hitting puberty, I always asked questions. I was like, why is hair growing under my armpit? Why is hair growing in places that I don't like? What's going on? And my mom always, spoke to me about it. But then that's not every child, right? Because the fact that I could even ask my mom is because she created a safe space for me to go up to her and ask her. Right. But that's definitely not what happens in most homes now. And that also highlights the fact as to why it's also very difficult just to have that sex education in our African homes, not only because it's sex, but just because there's not that safe space for children to even go and question their parents. Back then, questioning your parent was seen as disrespectful. Like, why? If you want to say why, it's like, or kids just did not have that relationship most kids do not have that relationship with their parents where they can just go for anything and ask and stuff like that, Now, I really want us to highlight the reasons as to why there's this difficulty for sex education. I know you mentioned that back in the day, or even like in certain cultures, they do those kind of educations. They educate the women at least to the best of their ability. But I still feel like, we must have come through a lot of studies, like the studies I read, the study I read earlier. There's still that lack of discussion in our homes, on our sexuality, on sex education and stuff like that. So I want us to explore a few reasons why there's still this difficulty to talk about sex education, especially in our African community. And I want us to start with the religious aspect. So can you highlight the religious?
I was actually going to go there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, okay, I'm gonna be very frank about it. I always say to myself, most Africans are hypocrites.
Oh yes. I totally agree.
No, because you see, it's like let me use I'm trying to be nice about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to look for a good word. You see, it's like they have this front they need to put out there.
Yeah, reputation.
They have this the goody two shoes. I'm so good. We don't talk about this. We don't drink water at home.
Right.
No, it doesn't work like that. And that's what I always say to people, that why do African parents, when they find out, okay, for me as an example, I taught my children about their sexuality as early as age 5
yeah.
for my son. Because even though, how will I put it, I'm not a typical Nigerian mother.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I was very aware of what I wanted out of life very early. You understand? And I just always said to people, even till now, anybody that knows me knows anything you tell me, the next question is always, why?
Yeah.
Because I want to know more.
Yeah.
You understand? I remember when I brought my son to school in South Africa, and my husband always says this to tomorrow morning, there were so many questions being asked back and forth by parents. And the only question I wanted to ask, which people thought was so alarming, and everybody was like, it's always like, who's going to bail the cats?
Right. And
I just asked them, it was a boys only school, a very massive school. You're going to be putting grade 8s with grade 12s. And I know that at that age, boys become a little bit curious.
Yeah.
You understand? So the only question I wanted to ask was, sorry, do you have gay incidents? And I remember the headmaster blushed. And I was like, I want to know. I mean, well, I'm not going to fool myself that it's not there.
Yeah.
You understand? What do African parents do? They know it's there.
Yeah.
They know it can happen, but they blind themselves.
Yes. They ignore it.
You have you have a 20, let me even just say 18-year-old daughter at home. You've not even taught her about sexuality. You think
she's not doing anything.
Built an invisible wall around her.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Like let us look at religion. And I always say to them, I'm a Christian. I'm a very practicing Christian. I go to church, but I've not turned God into a magician.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not invisible. I say to them, my daughter is not invisible to the world.
Yeah.
Now you want the angels to guard them. You want the angels. You don't want any evil to come towards them. Very good. I pray for that too. But
you have to prepare them.
It's a two-way traffic. They need to guide themselves.
Yeah.
They need to take care of themselves. They need to make sure they're not in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
They need to be aware of, okay, you know what, if I'm in a space with so and so,
a compromising space.
This is not what this can happen.
Yeah.
But when you don't teach a child that, it's like an empty vessel, the child just goes there.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
I was making an incident with a friend. I said, look, you see parents that have children with extremely large boobs.
Yeah.
You should teach that child, like I always say to my children, don't act your age, act your body size.
Yes.
You need to learn to act your body size.
Mm-hmm.
If you start menstruation at the age of 10 and you start jumping up and exposing yourself, no. My dear, you've missed something. You need to learn to comport yourself like a lady. Mm-hmm. But African parents, no, we want our cakes and habits.
Right.
So that when you go to church, you're this good holy person.
Right.
I'm reading the Bible. God is taking care of me. Yes, but even the Bible says, watch and pray. It didn't say pray alone.
Yeah.
It said watch and pray.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
So that is part of the problems I think Africans have. On the religious part of it for me, I think they hide under religion.
Yeah.
And that's just the truth about it. They hide under religion. A lot of atrocities are committed under religion.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of abuse is committed under religion.
Under religion, for sure.
Because we've put like an invisible thing about, it's like we've overestimated who religious people are.
Yeah. We put them on a pedestal.
He or she is a pastor.
Perfect. Yeah.
So
they're God.
Think such things towards them. And they're wondering, okay, why? First and foremost, like I always say to them, they're human.
Yeah, they're human. They're not God, for sure.
Thank you. So I think part of the problems we Africans have is religion, environment.
Yes.
Okay. Then I will use the word exposure.
Yeah, exposure. That's true.
And then most importantly, lack of knowledge.
Oh, yes. And the inability to want to learn as well. They just don't want to learn.
Like you rightly said, most people, once they hear the word sex, it's like so many things goes up in their head and you're wondering, okay, it's just a word. Yeah. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, I remember in South Africa, I think there's a course called life orientation that they teach. Okay. Mm-hmm. And basically when people used to condemn, I said, you know what, it's actually a very good course because what they teach basically is they're equipping these children for life. They're teaching them about different things, your sexuality, things that, like you rightly said, things that shouldn't be talked about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why is this person different? Why is this person gay? And I always say to people, like, the earlier you know that these people do exist, the better for everybody.
Yeah.
The better for you as an African parent. If you think his or your child is going towards that direction, you need to understand, why is that child going through that direction? What have you done?
Yeah.
And most of the times, like you rightly said, Africans do not know that sometimes, because they are so secretive and or made sex such a big thing, the children become curious.
Yeah. You know, make it a taboo. Yeah.
It's like, thank you, the word taboo.
Yeah.
You're wondering,
but why?
It's just like the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
The forbidden fruit is always so nice, eh?
Yeah.
You know, when you like, they tell you you can't have the sweet.
Yeah. Until this time, you're like, okay, sometime I'm gonna have it, but when? Exactly.
You look
like, why? Yeah.
When you take one of those sweets in the jar and you hide under the cupboard to have a go at it, it's like it's forever. It's so nice. But when they give you the old jar,
you're like, yeah.
But that one that you took under the staircase is always so divine.
Yeah.
It's just the same sweet like the other ones in the jar.
Yeah. That's no true.
Difference.
That's
just
true.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's answered your question on religion.
Yeah, and also I wanted to add to what you were saying, because a lot of parents, you can raise your child, in a Christian home and everything, but when the child goes out to the world, right, they meet other people that can contaminate their mind, and I mean, the Bible says raise a child the way they should go and they will never depart from it. They have those spiritual attributes, they have those that spiritual foundation, but then again, you have to be real with them. You have to make them know the reality of life. And I feel like, even when the Bible says, keep yourself, abstain from any sexual activity until you're married, it's like it also kind of makes our parents shy away from even talking about sex because the children are not married. I always say, like, parents want you to get married, but they don't want you to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's very ironic, and, I feel like that's what's damaging our community, because you can still have a boyfriend, you can still know about sex and not necessarily practice it. I mean, actually, I feel like the more knowledge a child has about sex, they will be at a better position to discern whether it's good or bad for them at that stage. You know what I mean? And a child who is more knowledgeable about sex and also about their Christian values will even have a better judgment, because they would want to abide to their Christian values as well as that knowledge that they have about sex, because giving them that knowledge actually makes them less excited to even want to do, because they know it all. And I know you had spoken about, the previous time. The previous time we spoke, I don't know if you mind sharing that story, because a lot of parents have to learn from that. I felt like it was a powerful story with you and your son, and you introducing him to, not really introducing him, but giving him that freedom to date at a young age. And a lot of people were condemning you. So I'll just let you take it from there, because I feel like a lot of parents should hear that.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, and I'm gonna be very frank about this. I think African parents, okay, like I said, they want to eat their cake and they want to have it. Yeah. And I would call it, with the new explosion of this Christianity thing, a lot of people hide under Christianity out of lack of knowledge. Yes, that's just the truth about it. Like you rightly said, it's actually very important for you, or as Africans, for us to because you see, we need to equip our children, because I always say to people, don't build a bubble around them, because the bubble is going to get bust out there. Yeah. So you need to let your child be at least, I say to people, street smart. Yeah. Let them be able to judge things. Let them be able to know, okay, this is what it is. Sharing my story again. I remember when my son, I have just 2 children, and like I said, I had children quite late, okay? I married early, but I had children a little bit late into the marriage. And I was lucky, I would use the word lucky, to marry somebody that had the basic mindset like me. We had the same mindset, and our mindset was like, you know what? I'm going to raise these children like I'm raising a friend. Yes. But we knew where to draw the line. Draw the line, of course, yeah. I knew where I was at to be mommy, and I knew when I had to be daddy. And I never believed in calling sexual parts a funny name.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We talked about it. You understand? It is what it is. We talked about it. This is what it is. And I remember when my son, like, I think it was just a normal stage. When they go through the ages of between 7, 8, and 9, 10, they get to that stage where they are trying to become boys.
Yes.
You understand? They are aware of their sexuality, but they're a little bit confused. They get attraction. You understand?
Yeah.
So how do I do as a professional? You help them manage it.
Yeah.
And my son was going to be 10, I remember, and he came home and told me, "Oh, Mom, when I see this girl in school, I always have these funny feelings in my tummy." And I said, "Oh yeah, that's butterflies. That's butterflies in your tummy. They're jumping all over the place."
Right.
You like her. It says, but and I had to sit him down and said, "Okay, you're liking her, but you're not liking her like your sister." He said,
right.
"Yes." I said, "Good." I said, "So we're going to talk to these parents. We're going to see, I want to feel them, because you see, you have to be careful." So I just said to this parent that, "You know what? My son likes your daughter as a friend, as a special friend. Do you mind if I take them out for a movie?" And, the other parent, luckily for me, were on the same wavelength like me.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Oh, they laughed so much that these ladies must be crazy, So I picked both of them, put them into the car. We had a date, and we went to the movies. And I just made sure I got popcorn, went into the movies. My son was on the left, she was on the right. I made sure I sat right in between both of them.
Right.
And, we watched a very nice movie. And when we were going, I said to my son, like, you have to be a gentleman. You have to hold her hands. You have to say bye-bye to her. You have to say thank you to her for
coming
to watch the movie with you, and just be nice generally. He says, "Oh, Mom," I remember his words. He says, "Mom, is it that easy?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "That's what people your age do at this time."
Right.
He says, "Oh, the butterfly left." I said, "Yes." I said, "You know why the butterfly left? Because right now, it's like you can't catch something."
Yeah.
But what would most parents, some African parents, I'm being honest with you, what would they do? They're going to cast and bind.
I'm telling you, yeah. They're going to be like, "How dare you?"
That child. Or they beat the child.
Right, right.
You understand? And I'm wondering, why should you do that?
Right.
That is why I always say to people that we sometimes Africans can be wannabes.
Yeah.
And I use the word wannabes is that they're not white.
Yeah.
They're not black. They're just confused.
That's true.
There.
That's true.
Yeah, they're just there.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that story actually reminds me of my own story, which it's so funny and childish. But when I was in like primary school, primary school, you're less than 10 years old. I actually had a little boyfriend. I had this guy that I liked, his mom was like my teacher. And I remember his mom really liked me too. It was kind of weird and it was kind of different back then, like I remember even the people at home, they used to make fun of me because we used to exchange letters like almost every day. He was like in a neighboring school. So he would actually send letters through his mom to give me in class. And then my mom was like the doctor to his parents. So when they go to see her in the hospital, they would take letters to her to give me, and my mom would do that, but I mean, she knew, of course, we were young and stuff, like she didn't want to forbid it or anything of that sort, but she just let it be, and I remember those butterflies. Those were like my very first butterflies I had in my tummy, but that's something that definitely, a lot of parents will forbid. Like they will literally get the child whooped, for even thinking about a boy. I mean, I was very smart, I'm not trying to brag, but I was actually smart. I did well in school. I was a good child and everything. And that was just a stage. I mean, like I said, I grew faster than my age for sure, because my sister really she wasn't like that and stuff like that. But I was always that very curious child. I always asked questions, and my mom actually knew I was just that special, so she did not want to get in the way of building my character on my own, and I feel like that's very, very important. I mean, we're not saying send your child off to go and date people, multiple people, or even sleep around at 6 years old or 7 years old, you know what I mean? But just letting that child, giving them the freedom, of course, with boundaries, to explore themselves, regardless of the age, will give them that independence as well. And will also create that safe space for them to actually come to you, when they have a problem, because they know that, hey, mom is aware of this. Mom is comfortable with this. Like your son could confide in you. And once you started with that safe space to give him the opportunity to confide in you, as he grew older, he will maintain that bond with you because he knows that if I have a problem, if I have a question, I can always come back to mommy, So
sorry, talking about that, and I think it's very important. Like I tell African parents that a lot when I counsel.
Right.
You cannot force things to happen. It's what you build. I'm happy
yes.
you being able to talk to your mom, or your parents, because she was open-minded.
Yeah, she was.
You understand?
Definitely.
She would have been able to. I mean, my son is going to be 24, and I'm telling you, some of the things he tells me, I'm like, I always say to him, I said, you're abusing my ears. Being abused now. Because not like I said, I'm being abused now.
Right.
I don't want to hear this, but because I've created such a bond, and the same thing goes with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've created such a bond with both my kids and my husband that there's basically nothing we can talk about when it comes to sexuality.
Yeah.
You understand? They would ask me. I remember my daughter asking me about the genes. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mom, she says things like, mom, I would love my breast to be bigger than yours. And I'm like, oh no, we need to go into prayers for that, because I don't know how the genes work. If it's what I know, I don't think it's going to happen. And after a while, she got used to, okay, this is what it is. And I made sure that when she started her periods, even way before she started her periods, I made her go through stages.
Yeah.
Of it's not it's when I feel, for one, and that is why you find a lot of young children, especially African children, being in bad situations, and you're asking yourself, how did you get here?
Yeah.
That's because the parents never broke it down for them.
Yeah.
They never explained things to them. You understand? So I used to say to people that, you need to let them know that, you can't be in a particular position or in a particular place with the opposite sex.
Right.
When I deal with rape cases, I always say to people that always remember, the male species is not a clock.
Yeah.
You don't turn him on and turn him off.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
That's true.
You can't get all cozy with I and then all of a sudden you say you don't want.
Yeah.
No, it's not clockwork. So don't even get to that position in the first place.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in an uncompromising situation. Don't invite a guy to your room.
Yeah.
When you know you don't want to take it any further.
Yeah. So
why don't you be in an open space?
Yeah.
But do parents teach their children this? No.
Right.
Because parents, I will use the word African parents.
Oh yes, it's directed to the African community for sure.
We live in a bubble.
Yeah.
We live in a bubble.
Yeah, they don't want to even believe that the child will be exposed in that way to begin with.
The child is not even looking at a boy. Then when the child turns 21,
right,
23.
Oh, you have to marry.
Aren't you going to get married?
Where's the husband?
Exactly. And I always ask them one question: was the person waiting on the sideway for them? Because you didn't allow this child go to party, you didn't allow this child socialize.
Right.
You didn't even teach this child anything, and yet by the time the child is 23, 24, boom, there should be.
Why you're not getting married? You need to marry. Yeah.
To marry them.
Yes.
You don't even want them to date.
Yes.
No.
Yes. I know, and
I go from. Boom.
Marriage. Yeah, to marriage. And I really, I mean, we're obviously going to have another episode on that that episode will be more rated, maybe mature audience, but it will really highlight the reason why sex education in retrospect, which will be to this episode, it will really highlight the reason why sex education is important, because we're going to really dive into the struggles, the sexual struggles, especially in marriage, that people face because they did not have any knowledge about their sexuality or even sex education. Sex education is not even only about telling them, oh, boyfriend, girlfriend, or, it's also about telling them
sexuality
Yeah, in the bedroom, like what to do, like teaching them.
Sexuality.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Even hygiene.
Oh yes,
Even
sexual
taking care of
hygiene.
your
Yes.
body.
Yes.
Yeah. Taking care
Yes.
of your body, taking care of yourself. I mean, sex education even includes self-esteem.
Yeah, self-esteem. Yeah.
Because, yeah, if you don't take care of yourself sexually, you can just become a little bit, how will I put it? Like, I always use this as an example. If you don't teach a girl some basic sexual education and sexual health,
Yeah.
it can boomerang.
Yeah.
She can have very horrible odors when she's having a period.
Her period, yeah.
Because she doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
You have some girls which is the body. I mean, you can't body shame anybody. But if you have a girl that has breast is quite big, you should teach her to wear the correct kind of bra.
Yes, that's true.
You understand? You should teach her how to carry. Not sloop over. Sex education is so broad because you teach confidence.
Yes.
You teach apart from being, would I say, okay, being not having sex or whatever,
abstinent,
there are other things you need to teach in sex education.
Yeah.
It's not all about not everybody's, the hormones, like I always say, they rage.
Yeah, our hormones, we can't control them sometimes.
They rage differently. So what do I say to people? If you have a young lad that with a raging hormone, then you teach about prevention.
Yes.
You teach about prevention. You teach about other things you can channel him into.
Yes.
You understand? I mean, I've seen people see their young teenage boys watching pornographic.
Oh yes. Yeah.
They lose it as if somebody died, and I'm like, okay.
They're curious.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're curious.
Stage.
Yeah, it's a stage.
It's pass.
Yeah, and that's actually an open door for you to now talk to them and coach them and advise them. Like, hey, this is I know you're watching this. This is not necessarily right, but I understand why you would want to be this curious. Let's sit down and talk about it, right? And again, every opportunity I get, I will definitely highlight the need that we have to create these safe spaces amongst our communities, amongst ourselves, for such discussions to be had. Because I've always been very open with my parents, especially my mother, especially because I'm a woman. I look up to her for women issues, and even till now, as an adult, as a married adult, like, we still have conversations about sex. We still have conversations about dating. We still have conversations, even when I was dating, like, she knew my boyfriend. She knew, I mean, of course, you won't tell your parents everything going on in your relationship or marriage, for sure. But I did not feel like there was nothing I couldn't talk to her about. As a matter of fact, I even give her sometimes advice on her own marriage, So it's, I mean, what do I know, right? But it's one of those things that...
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
You're very right, because it's very good to be old. I remember my daughter when she was maybe 14, when she had her first kiss. I remember I was overseas, and it was a very, very funny conversation because I was with a friend. And I remember my friend saying to me, wow, I really, really, really respect and envy you. And I'm like, because my daughter called and she was all tears on the phone. And I'm like, why are you crying? She says, I had my first kiss today. And I was like, oh, wow, that's nice. And she says, oh, nothing happened. I'm like, what did you expect to happen? The sky should open, doves should fly. I said, nothing happens. She was like, oh. And I'm like, yeah. See, because I was able to let her realize that, you see, all those things we read in the magazines,
yes,
in the books,
novels, and all
fiction.
That fiction, yeah.
They don't normally happen that way. But again, what was I trying to make her realize? In a way, I was making her realize that you need to come in terms with reality.
Yes.
So that you don't get disappointed and heartbroken.
That's true.
The day.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of those things, it could actually define who you become.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that is why you see some young people, I will look at it this way, looking for the wrong things.
Yeah.
And that's why you even see some older people staying in the rut.
Yeah. I mean, you have like 40, 50 years old and they're still in a 16-year-old body, because they don't know, they don't even know what to do. in terms of sex or sex education. They don't know. And sometimes it's very common.
Because they're not being taught.
Right. And sometimes it's very common in our African community for us to use aggression to cover up that insecurity, you know, especially, I don't want to point fingers, especially at men, because of course men always have their ego, but it's like you see certain people, and I can't wait for us to have this conversation in the next episode. You know, you see certain people who are very, very, you know, not good in bed, especially in their marriages, but it's like their partners don't have any right to complain about it, because it's like they use that aggression. Like, how dare you talk to me like that, or something like that. But that's just the truth. It's something that, you know, two people in a marriage have to sit down and talk about, because it's not about pleasuring one person. It's about pleasuring two people.
But guess what? That is where sex education comes into play.
Right.
Because you see, like you rightly said, if you are aware of your sexuality,
yeah,
you understand? If you are aware of your sexuality and you know that, okay, you know what? Let's go back into being Africans. And that's what I always say to people, that unfortunately, because we're Africans, culture determines a lot of things that we do.
Yeah.
It's just what it is. So it's just for you to be in the right setting with the right person that has the same mindset like you.
Right.
I've seen people that will tell you, you can't even mention the word penis in the house.
Oh yeah. Sometimes even has a nickname. It has a different name, or you don't even dare.
You can't even say to your, I remember when I was doing my sexual talk with my children, you know, and they were both on my side, and my husband and I were just going to, and a friend of mine said, what are you guys doing? And we're just talking generally about, you know, the things. And I used to say to my son, I said, hey, boy, you're old enough now. Those shoulders, they match. And if they match, they're going to become little babies. I used to go, oh my word. Well, they are matching. And I'm like, you don't shoot. If you shoot, they're going to match. And if they match, they're going to become babies.
Right.
And, you know, so, and I made him understand in a joking way the implication of things that are not to be done. You understand?
Right.
I even went on. I remember when it was about 8, 9, you know, when boys are so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to sit him down. It was that one I know I struggled with. I won't tell a lie.
Yeah.
Because I had to teach him about sexuality and why there are some men that like men.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I went about it in such a way that I wanted him to know that, look, there's some, you know, people will tell him things like, oh no, you know, you're pretty.
Yeah.
And I said to him, no, boys aren't pretty. No, boys ain't pretty. You're a boy. You're a boy. So boys are either macho, boys are handsome. So, you know, he would ask me questions like, I used to say to people, my family was my guinea pig of going to study sexology. Mm-hmm. And that's just the truth about it. Because I'm actually a psychologist, but I actually did because I am a very curious person.
Right.
I wanted to know why were there so many taboos. And by the time you got in there, it was like, oh, really? So this is all it's all about.
Right.
And then I said, okay, you know what? I needed to expose these children to what it was all about, expose them to say, okay, you know what? You can even tell your friends that, look, this is what it is. This is not what it is, but in a very subtle manner.
Right.
So you don't come across, because I remember in Africa, especially in most Nigerian places, a woman that is very sexually aware is viewed in a
negative way. That's true. Very true.
And a little child that is aware of their sexuality is looked as being promiscuous.
Promiscuous. Yep.
And I'm wondering why.
Yeah.
You can why do you have to view it from that point of view?
Yeah.
Why don't you look at it from the fact that, okay, this child is aware of what's going on?
Oh, they are confident. I mean, that highlights their confidence, of course. So
apart from even confidence, sometimes I think, like you use yourself as an example.
Right.
I think some children just are curious, you understand? They
Yeah.
want to know.
Yeah.
And when you have a child like that, it's better for you to just tell them the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell them what it is.
Yeah.
Lay the cards on the table. Let them know that, okay, you know what? You're a young girl. Your body's changing.
Oh, yeah.
Your body's changing because of this. I mean, I remember I had like with one of my nephews, and he said to me, when I wake up, my pee is always standing. I said, there's a miscommunication there. Both of you need to go talk to yourselves. You and your pee need to have a communication. You need to wake up at the same time.
Right.
And I said, because it's just being a boy, what was going on was just a normal thing. But I turned it into a joke for him. I said, no, you both of you need to go have a meeting. You need to decide on when both of you need. One person can't wake up before the next person.
Right.
What's going on is that your people is waking up before you. It shouldn't happen that way.
Right.
You understand? But some parents will tell you, I remember somebody telling me, oh, that child is very bad. Maybe it's beginning to have sex. And I'm like,
no, it's a natural thing.
Normal reaction. The blood is rushing to his penis at the normal canal. He's having a normal erection. Is normal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong.
It's very normal. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, the other person saw it as, oh, that's a bad child. And I'm like, it's not a bad child.
Right.
There's just nothing wrong. So you see, why do we go that way? I say lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's
yeah.
just it.
Yeah.
Lack of knowledge.
That's very true.
And hiding behind is, if you are not hiding behind Christianity, you're hiding behind is a taboo. It mustn't be discussed.
Right.
And if you don't discuss it, how do I know? Or how does the child know? That is why you find a lot of incidences going on.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't know how to protect themselves.
Right.
Like you rightly said, they don't know if it is right or wrong.
Right.
They don't talk about it.
That's very true.
They can't even go home and say to their parents, somebody touched me inappropriately. Because it has not been discussed. They don't even know if it's right or wrong.
Yeah. And I wanted to add, because it's not even only about the sex being discussed, it's also about just the fact that in our African households, children don't really feel comfortable even going up to their parents to talk about anything. Not even only about sex, but just anything, because like mom and dad are always working, and then you're probably at home maybe with the house girl, house boy, or with, the aunties and uncles or cousins at home. And then when they, sometimes when the parent comes home, it's like kids are instead running to the room and running away. So it's like that bond is not there. And this can be seen in like one of the earlier episodes in this podcast where this girl talked about rape. And she actually wrote the book Cactus in a Calabash. Her name is Mania Naber, and I interviewed her. And one of the things that, she highlighted from her experience, because she was actually raped from the age of 8 to 12. By the houseboy.
Wow.
In the house, sometimes multiple times a day, and she was raped vaginally and anally in the house multiple times a day with people there, and her parents had no idea. She tried to even speak up, but they actually trusted the houseboy more than her, because of course she was the younger child and he was the older one, So, but what I'm trying to say is that it's like most African kids in the homes, they feel shut out, that they can't even speak up on anything. And the irony about everything is that during those years that she was being raped, she did not even know that. She knew it wasn't good because of course it hurt, but she did not know what it was. So she couldn't even if she had to talk to her mom or her dad, she could not pick the words to say because she didn't even know what it was. She didn't know how to name it. You know what I mean? So that goes again to really stress on the fact that we need to create those comfortable and safe spaces for our children to talk to us. And also, not only our children, even our peers, because there are a lot of people who go through stuff, a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of mental health issues that they don't know who to talk to. So creating that safe space for anybody to talk to you without being judged goes a very, very long way to impact their lives and their outlook on life, So that again, I would stress that again. Now, I want us to talk about some truths and some facts and myths about, sex education. And then we will go to just demystify sex and, let it be what it is, because we have to definitely let sex be what it is. Sex is a biological phenomenon in our lives, and we have to accept it, Christian or not Christian, regardless of your religious background or your sexual background or whatever. Now, just a few myths versus fact. So the first one is true or false. The reason why so many people oppose sex education is because they believe it is a way to promote sex in an unhealthy manner. Is that true or false?
That's false.
Yes. Very true. So what do you have to add onto that? I know we've already spoken a lot about that.
I think the most okay, let's be honest with ourselves. Sex from the onset, from time immemorial, has always been seen as something very huge. You understand? Something you talk about in whispers. You understand? It's something you talk about in whispers. It's not something that it's that you just go out there and just boom, I'm going to have sex, or you just go sex.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look back, before people started putting so much meaning into sex, I remember growing up, there were music about sex.
Oh yeah, we used to sing them without even knowing what what it was about.
Thank you. I was actually listening to one this morning while I was driving to work, and it was funny, and I just like, wow, it was about let's make love in the rain.
Right.
Let's make love out in the rain. And it used to be one of my favorite songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh really?
We didn't know all of that. Yeah, that's true.
I always sang that song, and and there's another popular one. Let's talk about sex,
baby. Let's talk about let's talk about all the good things, all the bad things. Yeah, that was a very vulgar song, but we had no idea.
But let me now tell you something about that song. I remember vividly growing up, we used to sing like this. Let's talk about Let's talk about let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about
sex. Oh no.
What was it about?
Oh no.
You won't believe it was until I grew older. And for a long time, I thought that was a song. Let's talk about
no.
And then it was when I grew older, I was like, oh, it's sex. But again, and I mean, you couldn't just go home and say to your parents, and that is why I said it's a myth. People think that sex is such, I don't even know what to say about it. It's such a big word.
Yeah.
The moment you mention it, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
You understand? The moment you mention it, you're a bad person. The moment somebody says, a man says, oh, I'm sexually attracted to that woman.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
You're like, oh, abuse or harassment or something like that.
So I mean, so that is a no. It's definitely a myth.
Yeah.
It's definitely a myth. So what's the next one?
Thank you. So the next one, which of course will probably be the last one, is just two. Is talking about sex before marriage is a sin.
Not really. It depends on how you look at it from. You understand?
Right.
I personally would say it's actually a plus.
Yes.
Because then you both of you, because that is why you would go into a marriage or a relationship. It depends on what you want out of a relationship. Most people advocate, going into a marriage without sex, blah 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 blah. Like I said to people, it's your prerogative. If that's what you want to do, did I do that? I'm going to be honest. No.
Right.
So I'm not going to fool. I'm not going to fool myself.
Yeah.
And there are just some basic things you would pass down to your children. Like I used to say to my son, one thing I would never agree for any child of mine to do is cohabit with the opposite sex. If you have a girlfriend, you have a boyfriend, and I mean, would I want somebody to put my daughter in his or her house when you're not going to marry her? No.
Yeah.
You understand? So it depends. I mean, like the times are changing. Due to economic reasons, some of them need to cohabit, which I understand. So is sex before, should it be discussed? I think it should be discussed.
Yeah, it should be.
You should know, okay, these are my preferences, these are my likes, these are my dislikes, these are the things I would not do. I mean, I've seen marriages break up.
Crumble. Yeah, because of
the mindset of a particular partner.
Yeah.
You say things like, I've seen somebody tell me, I don't want to give my partner a blowjob, and I'm like, okay, why would you want to do that? So those are the kind of sexual things they should have talked about.
Yeah, sexual deficiencies in the marriage. We're going to talk about that for sure.
Because you see, there's some things you can overlook. If you and your partner have talked about some things, your preferences, the things I want, I can do, the things I would not want to do,
yeah,
the things I would like to explore.
Right.
You know, but when you've not talked about anything and you just expect it to just boom.
Yeah.
Work. You want sugar, I want tea.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna rub.
Right.
There's gonna be conflicts. If either one person will be doing it just to please the other, and at the end of the day, it gets to a time you're just gonna say to yourself, nah, I can't keep doing this.
Right.
And then that's when you start to rub. That's when funds get into play.
That's true. Well, thank you very much. Now let's demystify sex. Like, let's just let it be what it is. And let's start from linking it with the African mentality and today's knowledge. So what do you have to add on that?
That's it for today. Thank you for listening to our show. If you want to participate in the show or find out more helpful resources, then visit www.livingafricanpodcast.com for more information, or email us at hello@livingafricanpodcast.com. Also, don't forget to connect with us on all social media platforms at Living African Podcast. You can also connect with Anyo directly on Facebook or Instagram at Anyo Fambard. Thanks again for listening, and let's not forget to be more understanding and nicer to one another.